Finally, test-driven developments. We like to define test cases. Okay. So now let's go to our test birthday book class over here. Let's open a new tab and then say test birthday book over here, and let's write a new test case. Since we do not expect to see a violation to occur, so that should be a Boolean test query that we're going to write. Okay, so now let's go under the category of Boolean tests over here. Let's add similar to tadd. So we're going to add maybe t underscore get birthday, or tget maybe. So it's going to be similar to this. So if you don't mind, let's copy and paste over here. Let's copy this particular block over here and then paste. Okay, let's change it carefully. So rather than add, we're going to test for get. And then it's going to be a Boolean test, and then we still want our BB, the birthday book, and also the 3 birthday objects over here. And now comments over here, make sure you change it properly. Okay, it's going to be tget. Test getting birthdays from birthday book. How about that? That'll be good enough. And then we create an empty birthday book, and then we simply check is empty. So this one we checked previously, but doesn't matter. So we just check again. And then over here, this will be good. Okay, let's go from here. From previous setup, let's apply the same setup just for illustration. So we're gonna add 3 birthdays into the birthday book over here, Alan, Mark, and Tom as before. So now what we want to do, I want to show you how you can call the 2 versions of the get birthday, namely this version over here, get birthday with the attached birthday return value, versus get detachable birthday with the detachable birthday value. I want to show you from the client side what's going to be the consequence. Would there be any different consequences? That's something I would like to show you. Before I do that, let me just delete this line over here. We don't need it. We're going to write a new one in just a moment. But for now, let me just illustrate to you on the iPad quickly. Let's go one case at a time. Think about what we just discussed previously over here when we talk about in the context of the birthday book class, when we talk about get birthday with the attached birthday type over here, we're talking about the supplier, just about implementing the service, right? We talk about implementation, precondition, postcondition. So that's for the supplier side. So now we are moving to the test case, but think about in general sense, it's about any caller who wants to call this get birthday query. So that's a client side, just in general. Okay. So let's see what we should pay attention to. Let me just give you one example over here. Let's say any routine, just some routine or some command or some query. Let's say we declare BB of type birthday book already. And now, assuming that we already initialized the BB to be something, right? To be, for example, with the 3 records inserted. And now, what we want to see is when we have BB as the context objects, and when we try to call get birthday over here, just any name, let's say Yuna, and then once we get the birthday object back, right? Whatever birthday object is going to return, we want to know what's the month of that particular birthday object. So now, first of all, would this compile? Okay, so let me tell you that this will compile, okay? Because bb.getBirthday over here, as far as compiler is concerned, is going to look up the return type over here, which is birthday. More precisely, it's like attached implicitly, right? By default, it's like attached birthday. So this I should have actually put the highlight over here. So this whole expression over here is corresponding to this particular return type by inquiring any name. So it's going to be attached birthday. So now if you want to inquire about the month on this particular attached birthdays, which is always guaranteed to be not void. So from the compiler's point of view, there is no danger of having null pointer exception. So inquiring any invoking any feature call on this particular return value, which is attached, is going to be fine by the compiler. So in the other case, if we apply the similar arguments, it's not going to be fine. I'll get to this case in just a moment. Okay, why don't we do this one here? That will be the simpler case. Okay, you can see in this particular case, in the supplier side, we have to be careful about explicitly initializing the birthday result value. On the other hand, for the client side, it's actually easier. We don't have to worry about the return value might be void. On the other hand, we shift the burden to the clients checking the null pointer. Okay, you can see the amount of work that has to be done from the supplier and clients will add up to be the same. It's just about which one does more. Okay, let's now go back to iPhone Studio. Let's now do this one here. So I'll just do one example for you. I can simply say BB, let's say result is assigned to, let me just choose, how about we just do Mark over here. Okay, so Mark would be actually March 31st. So what I can do is I can say bb.get birthday. I'm calling the attached version. So let's say Mark. So this particular expression over here is going to be, according to definition, is just going to be returning attached birthday. So the compiler would be okay if you simply try to say dot month is simply equal to, let's say 3, March 31st, right? And I'll just do one for you, you can do the other two yourself. And also the day should be 31st, month and day. Okay, everything compiles. Okay, so that's good. Alternatively, you can also try the following. You can also try over here bb.get birthday over here, let's say also Mark. And then tilde, so that means this one is going to return a birthday object that's attached. And then you want to say tilde equal to, let's say just some birthday, right? So either you can say bd2 over here, just referring to just the same birthday, or you can create anonymous objects. I'll just do anonymous objects over here. Creates birthday dot make March 31st. Okay, test-driven development, we want to make sure every time we make a small case, we should really try to test it right away. And of course, don't forget, you have to put it under the make for inclusion, right? So now add Boolean case agents t get. Okay, compile. Let's run the workbench system. Okay, so everything works. You can see that's a t get that we got over here, right? It's working for version number 1. And let's now go back to version number 2, which is interesting on the client side, right? For version number 1, it's actually more interesting on the supplier side. You have to explicitly initialize the attached value. On the client side, the version number 2 is more interesting. Let's see why. Let me go back to the test case, and then I'll explain on my iPad to see what's going on here. What's the trick over here? Okay, let me switch back to my iPad here. So that's version 1 we discussed already. Let's go to version number 2. For version number 2, let's have a similar setup. So now on the supplier side, we say it has to be detachable, right? So that means over here, we don't have to. No initialization is required, right? Let me just get rid of the cross, just in case you get confused. Still, no initialization is required. So that means over here on the client side, let's say some client over here, let's say they also declare some local variable of type birthday book. Let's say we correctly have set up the birthday book. Let's say over here, when we say this particular expression, bb.get detachable birthday and then UNA, basically we are using the same input value here, UNA, but we are calling a different query over here. So now, if think about how the compiler is going to analyze this particular line. So when they look at this particular feature call or query call, get detachable birthday, according to the definition, is going to return a detachable, which means it might be voidable. Okay. So that means this particular expression is not guaranteed to be not void. Might be void. It might be void. So that means you cannot really call month directly on that, because there is a possibility that you might run into null pointer exception or void or call on void targets. Okay, so it's like a call on void targets. That's something you will see from the compiler message. Or similarly, it's simply equivalent to the null pointer exception you will see at the runtime in Java. But notice that in iPhone, you will only see this error over here at the compile time. Whereas for Java, you will see that at the runtime. So it's a fundamentally different about voice safety we are handling over here. Okay, so now how can we fix this particular error over here to make the compiler happy, right? In order to do this, we actually have to do the following. Okay, let me sketch the idea and then we'll go back and finish the coding. We have to assert to the compiler that we are pretty sure in this particular query over here, we are pretty sure Yuna does exist in the birthday book. So now compiler, you can just believe me. So you can bypass this particular check. So we have to make an assertion check. So the way to do it is, let me put it on the coding first and now explain on the iPad. Okay, that might be a more sensible sequence. Okay, so let's now go back to the code over here, and then let's say check result n. Okay, so now what I can do is I'm going to show you the syntax. Okay, so now we're going to say have a check over here. So check and n, that's something we have done previously, but now it's going to be slightly more complicated. Okay, it's going to be an extension to the previous check assertion. Okay, we want to check, then check as then. So now we want to give some Boolean expression over here for the first space over here, and we want to get another dummy variable over here. Let's see how we can write it and now explain. Okay, so now this is going to be a Boolean expression, so I'm going to say attached. Attached, remember, is going to be not void, right? We want to make sure the get birthday value is not void. So here I would say, before I do this one here, let me assert to you, verify together with you that we are really going to get compilation error. So now if I say result, let me just save some writing over here. Okay, let me just write this one here. Rather than get birthday, let's say get detachable birthday. Oops. Get detachable birthday. The second one, okay, is mark. And then also this will be also get detachable birthday, right? Let's try this and let's see what happened to the compiler. If I say compile, okay, so now exactly what I said. They said the target of the object call might be void. So if I click on that, it tells me the target for the month, which is this entire expression over here, it is, according to the compiler, they will look up the definition for get detachable birthday is simply detachable birthday, which means it might be void. So if you simply write things like that, it's not going to compile. So what's the lesson learned from here? From the designer's point of view, if you decide that from the supplier side, you want to say detachable for some variable type, so that means the catch is for the clients using this particular detachable value, the clients always have to check that this particular value is not void. Otherwise, they might run into null pointer exception at the runtime. So the compiler will actually make sure they check that. Okay, let's go back here. And the way to, also we already assure to ourselves that this is going to be compilation error. So what we'll do instead is this. Let's now do check attached. We want to make sure this particular value over here is attached, right? Otherwise, we get null pointer exception. Check attached, make sure this whole expression here is not void. And then if it is not void, we're going to name it as a new variable, like a dummy variable we're introducing. And then we're going to say, how about just mark birthday over here. This can be, in a way, it's more like a cross construct. Remember, in the cross construct after the S, you can just put any local variable name you like, as long as it does not clash with any existing feature name or the existing local variable name. The only confusion part, I agree, is over here, in the case of the across keyword, you have to worry that whatever variable you put after the S will be a cursor value. That's why you have to change from S to is, right? But now, in the case of the check, you have no such issue. So over here, when you say S, will just be a dummy variable name. The type of mark BD will just be exactly just the return type of bb.get detachable birthday, which is just birthday over here. It will just be that. Okay, it's not a cursor to birthday. No, there's no such complication. Okay, just be careful. Okay, so now let's now try to do this. So what we're doing is we're saying that we're asserting to the compiler the following. We tell them that we as the developer, we will take the responsibility of this particular expression as attached, which means this is not void. If it is not void, then this whole thing over here is going to be true. You can think about this whole thing here is going to return true. So that means you pass the check assertion over here. And then we can now use this mark underscore BD as a variable that always that's not void. We can use it. So now we can say result is assigned to mark BD dot month is equal to 3, and also mark BD dot day is equal to 31. Okay, that's what we can do. This one is a little bit tricky, so that's why I really want to show you. Okay, let me say it again. Okay, you really want to get the syntax structure understood. Otherwise, it will be hard for you to write it yourself. So think about, we got check over here. Check something over here as some dummy variable over here. Then, okay, so these are the keyword, and then n. Okay, so this particular expression over here, so this guy here is gonna be a Boolean expression. And this part over here is going to be a dummy variable or local variable. And for the purpose of this course, there are two possible expressions, Boolean expression you can write here. One is the one we are talking about here. We simply say attached. For example, you can say attached either some variable or maybe some expression like a query call. That's what we're doing here. And then you're saying if it is attached, and then the entire expression over here is going to return true. In that case, this dummy variable is guaranteed to be attached. So you can use this dummy variable in the body of the check assertion, like what we're doing over here. You can simply use it in the body of the check assertion over here. On the other hand, if this particular expression over here is actually void, in that case, this whole thing over here is going to be false. In that case, you will fail the assertion. But if you fail the assertion, you will take the responsibility as the developer. The compiler is not going to worry about it. Okay, so use this when you really have to. So in this case, we're only using attached over here. Later on, once we talk about inheritance and when we talk about typecasting, so the similar syntax will also be used for typecasting, but we'll get there later in the course. But just make sure you understand for this particular syntax, right? Okay, attach over here and also some dummy variable here. Let's make sure everything compiles, and then I'll show you one more thing. And then we are done. Let's compile everything, and then we will run the workbench system over here. Everything compiles, okay? And let me just do one more, okay? Oh, two more actually. So let's say this. You can also say result is assigned to, if I say bb.get detachable birthday over here, and then I say mark. So now this particular expression over here is not being used as the context object. So if I simply say this value here is tilde equal to, and then I can say creates birthday dot make March 31st. So this is actually going to compile. Okay, let me just make sure what I'm saying is really true, and then I'll explain to you briefly. Okay, and then of course you're gonna make sure you have some intermediate assertion over here. Let's compile over here. So this is working is compiling because so now the compiler will only complain if you try to use this particular expressions. If you say this expression dot month, in that case it's you can be calling on the void target like a null pointer exception. However, if you're only getting this value over here without using it as a context object, in that case, if it is simply just void, then of course this relation here will just give you false. So that's fine. So void safety is not a risk in this particular scenario. Just make sure you understand that. Okay. One more thing to show you. This expression over here is actually very powerful over here because you might be able to, you might want to introduce more than one dummy variables at the same time. Okay, let me do some illustration to you. So far we only check for Mark. Let's say we also want to check for Alan and also Tom. So how do we do that, right? Let's do it quickly. The skeleton will be similar, so we still got to check n. Okay, let me just get the structure right, and then we're going to also get then over here. So now inside over here is going to be some Boolean expression, right? Each one of them can be attached something as something. That could be one part, and then another part we can combine it using conjunction. So what we can say is bb.get detachable birthday, and then so let's say Alan, and then s, right? I'm just using this expression here, s. So let's say Alan birthday. So you can think about this whole thing over here is going to be true if this particular value, oh, actually I forgot, sorry, beg your pardon. Over here, okay, that's complete. This whole thing over here is going to be a Boolean, either true or false. It's going to be true if this return value over here is attached, in which case this Alan BD is going to store that attached object address. If otherwise, this particular return value is actually void. In that case, the whole expression is going to be false, in which case you're going to fail the check assertion. Okay. So now we can combine different attached check together. So we can say and. So now we can say another one, attached bb.get detachable birthday Alan, Mark, and Tom. Let's say Tom. S Mark, Tom birthday. So now you can see using a similar structure over here, but we can introduce two variables over here. But you might find it useful. And the trick is you have to understand that each one of them is like a Boolean expression, and we're simply using the and to conjoin them together. Okay. Okay. So now let's try to do one more. Actually, just try to write the assertion. So we say result over here is going to be assigned to over here Alan birthday dot month is equal to, let's say Alan will be September 14th, right? And Alan BD dot day 14. And also, let's say for Tom is going to be July 2nd. Tom birthday the month is equal to July, and Tom birthday dot day is going to be 2. Right, let's just make sure everything compiles. Okay, and then let's now run the workbench system. Okay, so everything works. Okay, you can see this particular one works, and not only that, but everything we have developed so far works. That's really important. You always run to make sure you still get a green bar. Okay, so let me recap very quickly for this. Okay, well, I want to understand this. There's always a catch when you make one design decision as opposed to the other. Okay, so what we want to see is from the supplier side, you can either choose to say my return value is simply attached, in which case from the supplier side you have to make sure the variable is explicitly initialized. So now this is the burden for the supplier. However, on the client side, which uses this code, you can see the way we call bb.getBirthday, we do not have to worry about it being context object might be void. It's not possible because it's always attached. It's always initialized for the return value before it's returned. On the other hand, if we try to consider another alternative, there's no right or wrong. You just have to think about which one you want to use, right? Which one makes more sense for your application. The other version is the return value may be void, and the keyword to use, which you have to know, is detachable. The good thing about the supplier side for this option here is you do not have to explicitly initialize the result as we illustrated before. But now the burden has been shifted to the client side. In this case, you can see in the test birthday book over here, one example would be over here, if I didn't have this particular check assertion over here to assert to the compiler, in that case, if I simply say bb.getAttached birthday book mark.month, as we saw before, it's not going to compile because this particular expression here may be void. If we are really sure it is not going to be void, we can assert to the compiler by saying in the context of some check assertion, we will take the responsibility if the check assertion failed at the runtime. So in that case, we'll say this whole thing over here for the check is going to be a Boolean expression, right? And it's going to be true if this expression over here is not void, in which case the not void result is stored into this particular dummy variable. And then we can also introduce multiple dummy variable in this way if you wish. Okay, so please make sure really review the story over here before you move on to the next video and practice this concept.